Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition, to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast, sixth season. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, chief content producer and writer of jakestick.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. Now, if you're watching on YouTube today, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe. If you're listening to us on our audio platforms, please download this episode and more episodes, and don't forget to leave a 5-star rating. I'm thrilled to welcome our very first international guest. She is one of the world's leading experts in emancipation, self-care, and feminine empowerment. She is also the author of the internationally acclaimed Rainbow Tablet books, and her books have been read by and praised by Emmy and Grammy winners, along with top corporate leaders. She's also the host of Live Your Highest Expression with Sia-Lanu Estrella podcast. So please help me welcome Sia-Lanu Estrella to the podcast.
Thank you. It's so lovely to be here.
It's so lovely to have you here, and I've got to say our very first international interview because you're coming from us all the way from Australia.
Yeah, so I live in the UK, but I just happen to be out in Australia at the moment. I've been running some retreats here, visiting families, so it's really lovely to connect across the waters.
Absolutely. I'm coming here from another odds, Overland Park, Kansas, in the United States.
Wonderful.
All righty. So, Sia, I would love to learn about how you started your spiritual journey.
Yeah, so I think for me, and I think for a lot of us, we are quite spiritually connected naturally as children. We sort of like have that access to that magical world. We can communicate with animals. We're more connected to nature. So for me, I guess my gifts were maybe a little bit more open than some people. But like anyone, I had conventional parents who sort of tried to condition me into the ways of the world and what they considered to be, the real world, a real career, all of that sort of thing. So I was actually 15 when I did my first training in a healing modality. And this is what I wanted to follow. And I always wanted to write books and I enjoyed acting. I was very creative. But my parents were very strong about having a real career. So I ended up going to university to study media and communications in journalism and ended up going into a corporate career in advertising and then across into marketing in the corporate world. And so I think along that way of living the life that was expected of me rather than the life that was really flowing from my heart, I think I, like so many of us, kind of lost touch with my true self. And I was ticking all the right boxes. I had the big 6-figure salary. I had the water view apartment. I was top of my field. And yet I really wasn't happy. I had this deep yearning in my soul that I was here for something else, that I was here for something more. And it just kept calling me. So I started doing, probably in my late 20s, I started doing some more trainings. I trained in sound healing. I trained in shamanic healing, and I kept being called back to Peru. Peru was a place that from the time I was a teenager, I read a book that was set in Peru, and I just knew. I used to walk around saying, I'm going to live in the Peruvian Andes. I just knew it. And I think I was about 25 the first time I went to Peru, and then I would go back every 2 years. And then finally, as can often happen for people, when you're not being true to yourself and when you're suppressing what your heart is really guiding you towards, I ended up getting very sick, developing chronic illness, and it just got worse and worse. And of course, ended up in a space where the medical industry really couldn't help me. And I tried all of the alternative medicines available. So I ended up going to Peru for 6 months to look for other alternative remedies, and ended up finding my cure in a Amazonian medicine to do with frog poison. It's called Cambo. And when I got back to Australia, I really felt very different. I felt like something had been awakened within me. So I cut down my work to 3 days a week. I started doing more of my healing work, and And then it was on one of my trips to Peru that the most sacred mountain there, he's called Apu Alsangate, summoned me. I went and met him with a very dear Peruvian friend who's a wisdom keeper there. And as soon as I got back to Australia, Alsangate started calling me to run my first retreat. And at first I was just like, I don't do this. This is, why are you asking me? And the call was very, very persistent. So finally I said, all right, well, if we're going to do this, I need your help. I need to bring it together. And that was when I ran my first retreat. And it really did change my life, because not only was it incredible for everyone who attended, but during that retreat, the mountain said to me, it's time to move to Peru. So I came back, and within 3 months, I had quit my job, sold my apartment, sold my car, gave up everything, and literally arrived in Peru with 2 bags, no plan, no idea what I was stepping into, but a full commitment finally to really walk my true path. And that was that would have been about 7.5 or 8 years ago now. And then since then, my life has just become beyond anything I could have even began to dream about.
That's incredible, to just drop everything that you were doing and just go and take the massive risks that you just did. And with 2 suitcases and 2 bags, it's just unbelievable. And looking right now about this conversation, so I think I say good on you about all that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was. I think when we start to really listen to ourselves, we know what we came here to do. We know what's possible. I mean, now I run global retreats. I run retreats in Peru, England, Australia, South Africa. I have these internationally acclaimed books. They are absolutely life-changing for people. There's already 3 Rainbow Tablets books out there. I've got 3 more that I know I'm going to be writing. It's getting huge traction with a lot of public figures really enjoying the books and starting to share about them. I've got online programs. I run a mystery school, a 12-month program. So, all of this, when I look back now at my journey, I realize, I call it following the breadcrumbs. I realize all the things that were guiding me towards this. From my teens, I knew I wanted to do some sort of healing work. And I was already starting to study those healing modalities. I loved to write from the time that I was a child. And when it came time to choose a degree, and again, it was my parents really pushing me, you must go to university, you must get a real career. I wanted to study novel writing. And of course, my dad, bless his heart, he said, sweetheart, that's still not a real career, so that's why I chose journalism. But writing was always I always knew I was going to write books. And then I remember in my travels in my 20s, I was in Brazil, and I was just doing a normal tourism kind of travel. And I remember talking to the tour guide at the time thinking, this is amazing. I would love to do this, to show people the lands and this, just be out there and connecting with nature. And she said to me, it's not all it's cracked up to be. She said, the tourists can be very demanding. You don't actually get to see much of it. You're very sleep deprived. She said, I actually wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But the impulse was there. And so what I've ended up creating is the highest version of everything that I was drawn to, the highest version of my healing work and skills, the highest version of my writing abilities, and the highest version of this impulse to travel and connect and have these deeply spiritual experiences. Because the way that I'm doing it, because it's not tourism, because it is actually spiritual journeys, it's incredibly rewarding. It's beautiful people, it's deep connections. So I think the thing is, our hearts do know, and it is there within us, but we are just so conditioned to ignore that. We're so conditioned to live in the way that society or our parents or culture tells us to, and to tick these boxes. And I think so many people get to that point in their life where they feel unfulfilled. They're ticking all the boxes. They've got the house, they've got the car, they've got the status, but they don't have that soul fulfillment. And for me, it was a massive leap of faith to just kind of like say, okay, I'm going to do this. But it it just felt so right. And oh my gosh, what it's opened up for me is phenomenal.
It's that, and I totally agree with you on that. Like, yes, I rather have, yes, people own cars, apartments, or any cars, houses, and everything. And I rather have my passion of like interviewing and talking with people, and not to mention, like, yes, it's going to come, but at the same time, I rather enjoy the journey and rather be able to be fulfilled than not being force fed, than being spoon fed to like other different things.
Yeah, and the thing I also want to say is you can absolutely be incredibly abundant from following your heart and your soul's, passion. I mean, my latest book, The Rainbow Tablets: Abundance and Sacred Co-Creation, it's all about the fact that we actually are abundance. That is we are abundance in motion. We are the walking, breathing embodiment of sacred co-creation. And when we remember this, we realize that it's not a one or the other kind of thing. And I think that's what we've been programmed with. It's kind of like we're told you're either fulfilled and you follow your heart, but you're not going to have that, abundance or success or all of those other things, or you do it the other way. And I was at the top of my game in corporate, on a really healthy 6-figure salary. I earn 3 times as much now doing the work that I love, and it grows year on year, but it's not earning from a place of exhaustion or earning from a place of sacrifice or doing what's expected of me. It flows from that passion, and I'm excited to get up every day. And I think, this is the thing, when we come into that remembering, when we unplug from what I would call the illusion, the 3D illusion, and we tap into the true magic of ourselves as manifestors, but so much more than what manifesting has been positioned to us. People are told manifesting is all about law of attraction, and that's a great introduction to what manifesting is, but actually it's so much more than that. We are master creators. We're not just attracting what already exists, we are creating our experience. So when we move beyond attraction, which is kind of like one half of the piece, and we realize that we are both the magnet for what we desire and the amplifier of what we desire, and we start to work in that full cosmic nature of ourself, that full connection of unifying earth and stars and creating what we came here to do, that's when it gets really, really exciting. It gets, it just, the things that happen are phenomenal. And I mean, you've touched on it. I've got huge celebrities reading my books and attending retreats and everything. And, for a girl who grew up in Australia, that's, and not even in the city, I grew up in the country, the Blue Mountains in Australia. That seems like, well, how did you get to where you are? And the truth is, by listening to the truth of myself, by undoing that conditioning and kind of shedding what I'm not, and coming back to who I truly am, awakening that magic and starting to, I guess, really fall in love with life, rather than it being full of obligations and expectations, really enjoying the adventure and the unfolding.
Absolutely. Here's the adventure for that. But also, I got it. You brought them up. So, when did you start developing the rainbow tablets?
Yeah. So when I moved to Peru, as I said, I had no idea what I was stepping into. I had to really, there was a lot of, I guess, old limiting beliefs that I had to let go of. I was definitely very much in that productive, distorted masculine energy, especially coming out of, in industries like advertising agencies and corporate marketing and kind of that go hamster wheel. So I had to learn how to be and how to connect and how to open up to that greater cosmic remembering. So it was about, well, I mean, I had an incredible experience. The very first day that I got to Peru, I was exhausted. I was jet lagged. I think it had been 30 hours in transit. You're arriving in high altitude, and I got to my accommodation, and I remember just collapsing onto the bed And then I heard, so obviously my gifts are quite open. I heard the voice of Mother Earth. She's referred to as Pachamama in Peru. And she said, I need you to come to the mountain. And she meant the Temple of the Moon, the place where I loved to go and sit in ceremony. And I thought, I can't do that right now. I'm exhausted. And she said, no, I need to see you now. So I just had about an hour and a half sleep, and then I went down to the market. I got some flowers, and I went up to the Temple of the Moon to make my ceremony to ground in to arriving and living in Peru. And as I was making my ceremony, I looked up and a rainbow appeared before me. Now, this was a day there was no rain. There were no clouds. It was a completely clear day. It was not rainbow conditions, put it that way. And this rainbow was not like an actual big arc rainbow. It was literally like a vertical pillar that appeared not very far in front of me. And then I heard Pachamama, Mother Earth, say to me, go into the rainbow. And at first I just took it quite literally. And I'm like, I can't, I'm on the side of a cliff. I can't walk there. And
you
so
don't
she
want
said,
to fall off it. You don't want to fall off it.
Right. So then she said, go into the rainbow. And I realized, oh, maybe she just means connect with it. So I connected in with the energy of the rainbow. And the most incredible thing happened. I started to see each pillar of color pulsate. And I started to realize that each pillar of color and the rainbow as a whole was consciousness. And as soon as I realized that, it was kind of like an aha moment. And I kind of went like this. And then kind of the magical moment was broken. I'd kind of pulled myself out of it, but it really stuck with me. And the very next day I had to go to the plaza to get some things for my apartment. And I asked the police officer down there, which bus do I get to the plaza? And he said, Arco Iris, which is Spanish for rainbow. And this bus pulls up with a rainbow on the front. And I thought, what is going on here? I knew
it's fate, and and also to share it in Hebrew, meaning it was meant to be.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, exactly. And so it was just one of those crazy magical moments where I'm like, something is happening here. But it took about a year, it might have even been a year and a half before I really understood what was happening, what was opening up for me. And I met the Rainbow Race, which are our rainbow unified selves. So they're the most whole version of ourselves. We talk about past lives, future lives, higher selves, star family, all of this. So all of these are, we each have a rainbow unified self, and all of these past lives, future lives, etc., are all fragments of that rainbow unified self. So we're connected within this experience in the multiverse, but actually we simultaneously exist in wholeness outside of the multiverse. And so I met the Rainbow Race, and they told me that I had come here to share this cosmic remembering, to restore it to Earth, and to write the Rainbow Tablets. Now, at that time, I thought it was one book. And I said yes. And the channeling started flowing. So it is a channeled book. It took me 1 year to write the first book, and it was the most groundbreaking. I mean, everybody says it's not just a book, it's a transmission, it's an activation. So as people read it, they have third eye awakenings, they have heart chakra awakenings, they have past life memories come through, they have new gifts awaken within themselves, they have huge clarity drop in. I mean, it's an experience, it's not just a book. And it asked a lot of me to write that book. And at the end, I was guided to put at the beginning of each chapter a little bit about my story and my journey of embodiment. And people love that because it shows the real life embodiment of this cosmic remembering. And I recall, so when I finished the book, just before I released it, I went up to the sacred mountain and I sat in a ceremony with my Paco friend, who's a shaman, and we just asked for the blessings for the book, and we checked that everything was, in highest alignment, and it was. And he turned to me and he said, "The books are blessed." And I had a friend with me who'd been saying to me, "You're going to write more books." And she grabbed my leg and she said, I told you there would be more. And at that time I said, I can't do this again. This is the most high frequency, highest multidimensional thing I'll ever be able to do in my life, because it really felt like it in that moment. And gosh, was I wrong? It turns out it was the stepping stone, it was the start, it was the foundation. And then, of course, when you open your heart, it just continues to go from there.
And you have 3 books out: Journey Back to Wholeness, Divine Union, and Sacred Sexuality, and of course the one that we mentioned earlier, Abundance and Sacred Co-Creation. Now, just to let everyone know, if everyone goes back to my introduction, I mentioned that your books was put into the hands of several incredible people that range from Emmy-winning art actors, Grammy-winning performer, musicians, and also some important corporate leaders. So, what was your reaction when you had these people come to you and say, "Your book changed my life," or that they were fans of your work?
Do you know, it's funny because it actually feels incredibly natural now. When you look at it like that and when you say it like that, then yes, it seems almost surreal. And I mean, some of these people, they're obviously people that I've watched in incredible films or incredible TV shows or heard them on the radio, and so there is that, I guess, surreal element when you're then chatting with them, or you're going to people's homes and meeting them, you know, in LA when I was on holiday in LA and meeting up with a few people and having video calls. And so I guess there is a slight surreal element to it, but at the same time it feels really, really natural, because I think the thing about the journey I've been on is it takes you outside of the illusion and the limiting beliefs. So I think we have these limiting beliefs of these almost like these different worlds within our world, you know, like, wow, there's the celebrity world, and then there's the everyday world, and there's this and there's that. And when you come into that true connection, you really come back to that remembering that we're all one, we're all connected. And you really see people for who they are, and you naturally do attract people who are very much, I guess, either ready to start living their truth and living their highest expression, or are already doing so. So it actually feels really, really natural. I mean, you know, I work with clients from all walks of life. I work with people who are, you know, maybe raising children at the moment, but they're working on themselves and how to be the best parent, how to be the best in their community. I work with people who are going into healing modalities, or working as psychologists. I work with people in the medical field, you know, top in the financial areas, you know, marketing, gosh, you know, so many different things, education, law. I've got a lot of lawyers, engineers, and then you've got people in the arts. And so really you're just meeting these people as who they are. And what you start to find is certain people are almost like there's a real soul family feel to it. So quite a few of the celebrities that I've ended up really connecting with, they've said to me, you feel like a soul sister. And it feels the same for me. And I think we naturally find each other, and I am so in awe of what they've chosen to do, because as my books have reached more and more people, I've had to step more and more into becoming a public figure. And now I'm an introverted person. So that was actually very difficult, because I was happy to have the books go out to, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. I wanted that. I wanted people to enjoy this and receive this and awaken this incredible, you know, cosmic remembering within themselves. But I wanted to do it from under the radar, and it just doesn't work like that. So I had to.
Absolutely. It's like, for example, you can't just expect to write this incredible book and then just have Good Morning America or The View or going on to Graham Norton. You can't just do that.
Yeah.
And anonymously.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was something that I really struggled with. It was a sort of like a layer of the ego death that I had to go through to accept, oh, okay, I need to be seen at these really high levels. But what it has done is it's shown me that the people who are living in that realm, who are sharing their gifts, their arts, their themselves at that level, it takes a lot of courage. And I have a lot of admiration for them. And at the same time, I understand for them how difficult it can be then when they want to work on themselves to, they can't just attend a retreat with a bunch of other people, because everybody's looking at you differently, and everybody's waiting to get home and tell their friends, oh my gosh, you'll never believe who was on the retreat, and this is what was going on with them, and all of that. So it became important for me to then provide a really safe space for these people who have taken on these roles of being very public figures and who are sharing incredible messages out there in the world. They're using their public visibility and their platforms to actually really ripple out amazing things into the world and empowering the people that are following them. So I realized part of my service and my role here was to give them a safe space to be able to continue working on themselves, to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to just be fully present with their journey. So it's been a really wonderful experience. So yes, there's that surreal element, but also it feels completely natural. And I think, again, when you take away the limiting beliefs and when you take away these concepts of what is possible and what is not, it just keeps opening, and you start living this life that is beyond anything you could have imagined. But at the same time, it feels like, yeah, but this is what I came here to do.
And I think it's important as well that especially you have these high profile figures, that for example, if they want to have the safe space, and Joe and Susie see, oh my God, I'm going to name a celebrity. They may or may not be your client, or they might not be Sia's client. I just say, oh, I just saw Robert Downey Jr. Or is that Barbara Streisand? Or is that Thea Fuller? Or is that will.i.am? Like that. I'm so glad that you're able to hide let them stay anonymity, and let the people, and let your other people who come to be your attendees of these retreats say, rock on, not just a more memorable experience, but like, oh my God, I just did a meditation right next to Drew Carey.
Well, actually, I do them separately. That's the thing. I do them separately. I create a separate space for the celebrities, because what can happen is if general public, like obviously I'm attracting really grounded people who are really heart opened, but it can be distracting for them to be in a space where there's someone, really famous there. It can be a bit of a like, oh my gosh, and it can pull them out of their own journey. And at the same time, it's hard for someone with a really high public profile to be fully vulnerable and present and open when there are people there looking at them differently to how they would look at other people. So I do it through creating a separate space, and I found that works really, really well. Yeah.
I think that's amazing. So we got to talk about your podcast. So what led you to start the Live Your Highest Expectations?
Yeah, so it's Live Your Highest Expression.
I'm so sorry. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
no, that's okay. That's okay. Live Your Highest Expression. And it's because obviously the Rainbow Tablets books are so life-changing for people. And I was getting, I get hundreds, if not pushing thousands, of emails and messages from people saying how life-changing it has been, how transformational it has been, and that these kinds of experiences and conversations aren't really being had at that level. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there sharing spiritual work and everything, but at this level of depth and embodiment, there's not that much out there. So I started to realize that people were craving deeper conversations. Everything is going the other way. Everything's going to sound bites. I call it fast food spirituality. Everything's about this short attention span, make your little reel, make your little quote that's a little soundbite quote of spirituality that people can share, and it's all very surface level. And so this is what gets exposure on social media. And naturally, because I am a writer and I'm a storyteller, my shares on social media do tend to already be deeper. But then I was like, well, people are craving something even more deep than that, more than you can do on social media. And that's when I realized I need to start a podcast. And if I go back even further, during the pandemic, I talk about this experience in my second book, the one about divine union and sacred sexuality. I was living in Peru, and I ended up moving apartment about 6 weeks into we had a military lockdown over there. It was really hardcore, and it went for about 3 months, I think it was. And I ended up moving about 6 weeks in to a new place, and there was an English music producer who happened to be in the apartment below me. And we ended up, I mean, we were literally the only person each other saw every day. And so we ended up hanging out every day. We ended up coming into a relationship. And he was a really incredible man. And some of the conversations that we would have, he would say, Sia, you need to start a podcast. People need to hear these things. People don't know these things. They don't think of it in those perspectives. And I didn't really, to be honest, understand what a podcast was there, because I wasn't really connected into social media or podcasts or anything like that. I was just kind of like living my life in the Andean mountains. But he kept saying it. So I think that kind of planted the seed. And then, then I started the podcast, and of course started having this amazing feedback and seeing how exciting it was to bring such a diverse range of conversations. Like I said, I've had people on my podcast who are lawyers, people who are, financial directors, people who are naturopaths, medical doctors. And then I've had people who are like my dear friend who's a Peruvian wisdom keeper, one of my other dear friends who's a Peruvian medicine woman. I had recently Eric Bigger, who used to be, he used to be quite known in the TV space. He was on The Bachelorette and did a few shows after that. And we just connected through me going on his podcast. And then he came on mine, and then he did attend my Peru retreat with the rest of, like, in the general group. And just hearing his experience, him sharing his experience of being someone in LA, living in that, that industry, the entertainment industry, and then going away and having such an incredible different experience in Peru, and what that then brought back for him. I mean, these are conversations, when I listened to him talk, I said to him afterwards, I said, you were talking from a higher plane there. There was something flowing through you. I had literally never heard any male speak in that way, and the realizations he was having about masculinity and his ancestral lineages and everything. So for me, it's really exciting because it gives you an opportunity. There's the humanness, there's the connection, there's the shared parts of the journey, but also the parts of hearing other people's journeys that are so different to anything, and then open up people's minds. And it's inspiring, and it's creating that connection in a world that I think is pushing us towards disconnection, pushing us towards short attention spans, pushing us towards shallow experiences. And we're going against the grain to bring that greater depth.
And in all honesty, I'd rather deal with in-depth and have longer episodes and longer stuff and have more meaningful conversations than shallow, hey, how are you?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we got to start winding down our conversation. So, Sia, why should my audience check out your material and list your book, the Rainbow Books, and why the Rainbow Tablets, and why should my audience listen to Live Your Highest Expression?
I think really just for that curiosity. What I love to say to people is, there's a spark of remembering within our hearts, and everything in our modern societies is trying to keep us from that, because this whole 3D illusion that we live in is based on keeping us in that conditioning, in that disconnection, in our fragmented energy, so that we don't rediscover like our power, that we are these incredible cosmic beings, that we have the ability to manifest all that our hearts desire, and that paradise, the magic, it all lives within us. And then when we tap into that, we create it all around us. So I think, obviously, if the listeners are looking for a deeper, more meaningful, more magical, more just limitless expression of their life, then definitely read the Rainbow Tablets books. You can find them on Amazon or on my website at Sia-Lanu Estrella.com. So it's SIALANUESTRELLA.com. And they are just, they are activations. They are a powerful, powerful journey. And then for the podcast, I think it's that beautiful curiosity of what are the possibilities, and also just hearing what other people are experiencing. Because I think there are certain things that so many of us go through, like getting caught in people-pleasing behaviors, or having fear hold us back, or struggling with unworthiness, or maybe medical things that we come up against, and how we meet those medical things and how that can change our lives, and then opening up to these whole other possibilities of things that people in mainstream society might never have thought of, when you start to talk to these wisdom keepers and these people who are living in these incredibly connected and powerful ways. So I think follow that spark of remembering within your heart, follow that curiosity, open up to the higher possibilities. And that's what the Rainbow Tablets books and the Live Your Highest Expression podcast is there to provide.
Awesome. So, guys, if you miss an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast, visit our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Spreaker. Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. And want to find out more about what's going on with my music reviews, want to find out what happened last season of America's Got Talent, and want to catch incredible more interviews, visit jakes-take.com. Once again, jakes-take.com. Sia, it was an honor and privilege to speak with you. I had such a great time meeting you.
You too. Thank you so much. And keep doing what you're doing. It's beautiful what you're sharing.
Thank you so much, Sia. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.